all of you making it out this evening. It was raining earlier, so we thought, that might draw people in, but then the weather changed, and that's all McNally's fault. My name is Wayne Cobal, and I'm a former teacher, administrator here, parent of 3 kids, and member of the YOBC crew. And this is one of those topics that I remember when it first came up. We're like, what is sextortion, and how do we educate people about what it is so they can come and learn more? And it's scary stuff. And given that I have white hair, the whole cell phone thing and all that is not my jam. And I just don't know why people choose to do the things they do with a cell phone. Now, I have a 3-ring binder at home, stay seated, that might be incriminating to some people, but it's in a 3-ring binder and it's in my closet. And it's not out there for the world to see, and I don't want it to be out there for the world to see. There's no news. It's a gun, so I'm scared. What the Youth Burnett County Prevention Coalition put it on. Burnett County Public Health is here. You know who you are. St. Croix Tribal Health Center is here. Wisconsin Department of Corrections and the Wisconsin Department of Justice, as well as the Burnett County Sheriff's Department and the Community Referral Agency. And if I missed somebody, I'm sorry. Sponsors are the School District of Siren, that's where we are, St. Croix Tribal Health Center, Tavern League of Burnett County, and the Squirrels Unlimited Meat Raffle. All of you know what Squirrels Unlimited is? Yep. It's like Ducks Unlimited, only squirrels. Or something. Yeah. But we have 2 presenters tonight that we're very, very lucky to have here. We have Brittany Bird and John DeMay. And without any further ado, I'm going to introduce them. And this is going to be kind of a low-key. I'm not a high-stress guy, so I guess if we have questions or something like that, and then if I need to shut up, Rachel will just...
All right. Making sure this is working.
Just so everybody out there can see me, all of you. Hi everyone, my name is Brittany Bird. I first want to thank you all for being here tonight. A little bit of a smaller group than we've spoken to so far. Same message is coming out, and I think if anything that we can get out of this group is sharing these stories that you're hearing tonight and the information that you're going to get along the way. I'm going to talk a little bit about my son, Braden. Braden was 15 years old. He was a talented athlete, a gifted academic, a big brother, a friend, a son, nephew. Braden had a lot of really good friends and really positive relationships in his life. He didn't suffer from depression or any mental health issues or anything of that nature. 6 months ago, in March 4th, Braden and I were at my hair salon with his friend. I was doing his friend's hair. We spent the evening together, laughing, joking, driving home. He fell asleep on the car ride and woke himself up by laughing. And that night, nothing was off, nothing was strange. My husband told me good night around 10:45, 11 o'clock p.m., and we went to bed. The next morning, I got a text message that had said school was canceled because of the snow day. And Braden and his friend at my salon had big plans for the snow day. He was a huge skier, loved to do it. They even planned out what tricks they were going to do on the ski hill that day. So I snuck downstairs to go tell him, you get to go to the ski hill. Today, there's a snow day, school is canceled. And that is when I found my 15-year-old son, who was smart, loving, athletic, had good relationships with his peers and adults, had taken his own life while we all slept upstairs. My husband and I initially could not understand because Braden was not like that. Braden was not someone who struggled and didn't talk to us about things. Braden wanted a future. He had just talked to me maybe a month prior about wanting to go to a good college and get a good job so he wouldn't have to live paycheck to paycheck. He planned on living. All morning, we were sitting there, wondering why. What did we miss? What didn't we understand? Why didn't he come to us? He talks to us about everything. Later on, the police looked through the scene and they found a note that Braden had left on my husband's computer. And the note said, "Make sure he gets caught. I'm so sorry. Everything is on my phone." And along with that, it had the information for the Marathon County Cybercrime Unit. So immediately we knew this is bigger than our house, our family, our school district, anything that we could have ever imagined. We didn't understand how big this would turn out to be. As we've kind of been navigating this path over the last 6 months, we've learned more and more about what happened with our son. We've connected with other people who have experienced the same trauma as our family and our son did. That night of March 4th, Braden was contacted on Facebook by someone who had mutual friends on his baseball team, mutual friends from his school. And there was a female who contacted him. They were talking, and at one point, this online entity had convinced Braden to send a photo of himself, which he did, and yes, he made a mistake sending that photo. But Braden was 15. He was being victimized by this person online who coerced him and tricked him into believing that it was someone he knew and wanted to start some type of relationship with. After this photo was sent to the other person online, within hours, Braden took his life. Because almost immediately, he was harassed and threatened to give money, or else your photo was going to go to your parents, your coaches, your teachers, your friends. Your mom's going to be disappointed. Your coaches are going to be disappointed. Your friends are going to be embarrassed. Braden did send these people $300. He gave in to their demands, but they did not stop. He tried to make other transfers from Western Union accounts and things of that nature to give these people more money so they would stop. They pushed him to the point where he was so lost and confused and hopeless, he felt his only choice was to leave. Braden's little sister turned 9 3 days later. He would not have left his sister on her birthday unless he was made to feel like he could not go on anymore. There has never been any moment in my relationship with my son where I ever had any inkling that this is something that he could have done. That alone shows us how terrible these predators are and how much they do not care. People who don't know you online do not care what happens to you. These financially motivated crimes, it's purely that. They want your money. They don't care if you are stressed or you are on the verge of making a life-altering decision. They don't know you. The people who know you and love you need you to stay. There is nothing, and I wish I could have talked to my son about this. However, we didn't know this was a thing until it happened in our home. It's a big reason why we're all out here and doing these and having these conversations, because the more people that know, the more lives we save along the way. Conversation has to shift from telling your kids, don't do this, right? Because this is so normalized in today's day and age. There are people who get paid for putting photos and videos online. This is normal to our children. It's not right. It's not okay. Their brains are not ready for what the world is putting in their hands in the form of a cell phone. This is the first year, or last year was the first year that we let Braden have a cell phone in his room at night. We figured he's 15, he's responsible, he's smart. We've talked about online dangers before. He has a great group of friends and he's got a good head on his shoulders. The whole world is in your kid's room at night with their phone. We were in the same house as he was when he took his life, and we didn't know. I think it's also really important for the couple kids here too to realize that what is happening to you right now feels so big because your world is so small. You have school, maybe a job, maybe a girlfriend, boyfriend, and that's it for now. You have so much that you have to see and so much that you have yet to do. And there's nothing along that journey that your parents are not going to be there for. There's no point where a parent or a caregiver or a loved one will tell you, that's too much, you messed up too bad, you gotta do it on your own. That is our job, to be there for you and help fix the mistakes that are made. And I think it's also really important for the adults, caregivers, and parents in this room to realize your kids are going to do stupid stuff. We can say, don't do it, over and over and over. We've done multiple speaking events, and even after we did them in our community, weeks after, we had people reach out and say, we heard your story. My son came to me last night because he heard your story and this happened to him. We can get the information out there. They're still kids. Their brains aren't ready. They're impulsive. And the way that these people work is they target the most vulnerable groups, our children. And they use the internet to do it because a lot of our children are constantly connected. They're taking advantage of this place that was supposed to be set up for connection, like-minded people. But the monsters behind those screens aren't looking for that. They're taking advantage of the fact that parents will rely on age restrictions and think that's fine, that's good. My kid can't get into trouble because we have, you have to be 15 to do this or that. Internet doesn't care. It doesn't matter. It is up to us to continue to keep having these conversations and know that even if you do talk to your child about it, it's still a possibility. Not because they're a bad kid, not because they're not smart, not because they don't care or didn't listen, because they are kids. And the people contacting them are predators. When this happens, you are a victim. These people will make you believe that you did something wrong and you should be ashamed. You shouldn't send illicit photos on the internet. In the event you get put in this position, that's where you need to have a plan. You need to have a plan where you can say, here are maybe 3 people who I could go to at my most vulnerable and when I need help. Sometimes maybe it's a friend. Sometimes it's a trusted adult, coach, teacher, parent, aunt, uncle. And that kind of, I guess, segues into another thing that I wanted to speak on. I think that it's really important for today's youth to realize that if a friend reaches out to you in a moment of distress, and they say, don't tell anyone, you don't want to get in trouble, tell someone. You're not tattling on your friend. Let your friend be mad at you for a week. They'll still be here. In our case, our son did reach out to a friend. His friend didn't know what to do. His friend didn't tell anyone. His friend was on the phone with him while he was going through all this. And now that's something that he has to live with, and he's a victim too. It's heavy. It's a lot to put on the shoulders of our youth today. But that's the reality of it. There's no way to sugarcoat it. We have to have each other's backs all the time. It's okay if you tell someone that you don't feel safe or your friend isn't safe. Even if it ends up being nothing, it's worth it because you could have saved them. The more that we learn about how these things work, we're finding just so much information that's almost overwhelming to the point where it's hard to understand how this even starts. These people will feed off each other, the people who are victimizing our children. They have written scripts out that they share with each other, the newest updates on the script on how to extort or sextort a teenager. For them, this is their job. Our job now is to make sure that it stops happening. They will continue. Things will get even more difficult, especially with AI and things of that nature. We are behind when it comes to the internet. I don't know that we'll ever catch up, but one way to change it is you have to keep talking about it. Even if everybody here talks to one person about it, that person is maybe going to be in a position where they need to say, okay, I remember someone talked to me about this presentation. This is what I have to do. I know September is Suicide Awareness Month as well. I think it's obviously it's a little bit of a different situation where Brayden wasn't struggling mentally, but I think that the youth today, everything is heavy and everything is hard. And when things aren't going well at school or during the week, you don't get away from that, right? You take your phone home with you and things still aren't going well. Even in those senses, if you see someone getting bullied online or whatever it may be, say something. That is your chance to stand up and use your voice. You need to know that this is not your forever. The way that you're feeling right now, or when something terrible happens in your life, I promise you, a year from now, months from now, it's something you will look back on and say, I made it through that. I did that. We need you here. And I know that Brayden knew that we needed him here too. But he was so afraid because of what these people did and said that he felt like he just couldn't do it. And I want everyone to know that no matter what, you don't have to do it alone. Talk to a friend, talk to a teacher, talk to your parents. Keep the conversation going. My son was worth more than the $300 he paid someone before he took his life. Everyone in this room is too. And I promise you, you will find someone, whether it's the person sitting next to you or the person you're going to call when you leave here and talk about it, they need you here. I'm going to pass this over to John and give you some more actual information.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me back there?
I can hear you. Is that working? But I can
What's
hear
that?
you either way.
Well, I'm not holding it. My arms get tired. I get lazy with this. I don't know.
Well, I have your lights okay for you now.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just want to make sure you can see the screen.
Yep.
There's air conditioning on.
That I can't help.
It's It's hot down here in Wisconsin. I'm from northern Michigan. It's like 50 right now. Thanks for everybody for coming. This is an epidemic right now, sex extortion. So is fentanyl, and so is all kinds of nonsense that's happening online. We're going to talk about a lot of things about that, but more importantly, I think what Brittany was saying is we have to put our mindset in a place where we're willing to talk about this and pull the covers off of some of this stuff. And I'm probably going to shock some of the older people with some of the information I'm going to talk about tonight that's happening online, but it's happening and it's worse. Every day it just keeps getting worse and worse. Less than 1 hour ago, as you guys were all eating, as I was setting up this video, I got a call from a scared mother who had a son that was sextorted 10 minutes before she called me. This was just less than an hour ago. I get those phone calls all the time, every week. And those are just the people that, hey, I saw you on a podcast, I saw you on Fox News, I saw you on Nancy Grace, I saw you. And I told my son or daughter about you, and this happened to me, and I'm so thankful that they came to me and was able to spill beans, right? Hopefully that young man learned a lesson, and I hope everything's good, and I'll be following up with them, but it's happening all the time, just as we sit here and talk about this, right? I'm not a public speaker, I'm just a dad. I'm here for the people in this room. I'm here for my family. I'm a real estate guy. I was a former police officer. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice in my early life. I fell into the real estate business by accident 18 years ago. Glad I did. It's been good for me, and it gives me the flexibility to do what I'm doing today. This isn't my job. I have several jobs that I'd probably like to get rid of also, but I'm just here to provide some information and hopefully some inspiration to some young people, and maybe give some parents the tips and tricks and the courage to make some changes in their households and to tell their friends. But in my travels, I do travel a lot. I'm traveling at least a couple times a month, average throughout the year, all over the world, mostly in the country, but I've been to other countries speaking. And met some of the greatest people on the planet in my adventures. Elizabeth Smart, she's an amazing person in this space. I've been on all the 3-letter media agencies that you can imagine. Nancy Grace, been on her show a few times, and when we talk about suicide a little bit, and in our case it's a lot different too, right? Jordan was murdered. He really, I don't consider him in a class of suicide because of the situation. Same with Brandon and the others that have died, but Nancy Grace and I had a conversation about suicide rates during COVID, and the spike that we're seeing. What we're also seeing is the trends of the sextortion and all the other online harms that are happening at the same time. And it would almost be foolish not to think that the social media and the addiction to the telephones is creating some of either the suicidal ideations, or there's a lot more out there that are victims of this crime than what we actually know about. And we'll get into that a little bit more too. Video, it's about 6 or 7 minutes. This is going to put you in the driver's seat of what it's like to actually be sextorted. It's a video produced by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And it's about a young boy who is texting with a female back and forth, and they exchange images, and you can kind of just put yourself in the driver's seat of what it feels like to be in this situation when it happens. This is an interactive video. You can actually go on the website and play around with this, and you can select different things. You'll see me clicking through it.
Nigga, I got sniped. Rest me real quick, rest me. Come on, just hurry up and rest me. They're like 10 seconds away, come on. Follow damage. Okay, 20 again. 1 pump, I got a teammate. 40, broke a shield. Hit him once. 1 second.
Alright, I'm gonna show you the handshake. Close the ears, stop the west. The west.
You wanna try for the team this year?
Yeah, probably.
You better.
You're back early?
Yeah, I'm tired.
Dinner be ready in an hour.
Okay. Reverse and then start pushing.
How'd she do that?
She did good. Yeah.
Proud of you. Mark, you barely touched your food.
structure. You know exactly what to do, exactly what to say, all the right things at the right time. It's very fast-paced. In the United States, as of today, there's been 36 suicides just from financial sextortion. That's not traditional sextortion, that's just financial sex. 36 that are reported, that we know of. 36. This is Riley Basford. He was one of the first cases I Googled after Jordan died. Jordan died on March 25th, 3.5 years ago. Riley was the year before. So when this happened to us, I Googled it, found Riley, and I found that he took his life within 6 hours. And I was blown away by that. Riley's mother and I are actually really good friends. We talk to each other every day. Got to know each other really well. This is Shalyn Dixon. She's actually in New York. The same month, she was a victim of sextortion as well. Brady Marcus is 15 out of Ohio. From the time that he got the first message from the extortionist to the time that he took his life was 27 minutes. About the time that y'all have been sitting in this room with me right now. That fast. So when we're thinking about what we're doing as parents and what we're not doing as parents, and parents are asking what can we do and how do we prevent this, how do you know this is happening in 27 minutes with your child? Emma McDaniels, 14 out of Texas, 30 minutes. Yanni Torres, another good family friend of mine now. She reached out to us, she saw us, she found us online, and there's something out here after Jordan. They're in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He was sextorted for about 6 weeks, which is a little bit rare. But they went after him and came after him and went after him for 6 weeks. This is Braden. Flowers. Sextortion and financial sextortion. Two different things. And I think it's important to know. I don't want to get in the weeds with it, but it's important to know for the ladies. Traditional sextortion is when extortionists are after you for photos, and they're primarily targeting young teenagers for photos. These are organized people, organizations that collect photos, they package them up, and they sell them to other organizations, like the ones that victimize our children for money. They do it for different reasons. And it's important for the young ladies to understand how that happens. And it starts with your Instagram posts and your social media posts. So what they do is they go on your Instagram feed and they get your profile picture, and then they keep scrolling, and then they get your picture at the school dance with your shoulders showing, and then they keep scrolling, they get the one with your dress with your thigh showing, your slit down your dress, and then they find one with the tube top, no bra on, chest cleavage picture, they take that one. Keep scrolling, they go back to the family vacation on the beach where you're wearing your string bikini in Mexico with the family. They take that one, and so now they have a whole set of progressionary photos all ready to go. So they go on the back end, they start friend requesting all your family and friends, and then they start to extort you. They reach out to you, try to friend request you, want to have a relationship, start talking small talk, introduce themselves. They're going to entice you to send photos, because all they need now is a picture upstairs, a picture downstairs, or both. Because they got all those photos all lined up, and then once that happens, they take those and they sell them to other organizations who pay money for those. Those organizations take those photos, go to another organization who specializes in niches in hacking and creating fake social media accounts, and they go and buy those. So they buy the photos, they buy the hacked accounts, they put them together, and then they go into John and May's house from Nigeria. They go into the whole family from Nigeria and extort for money. So that's the difference. The extortions for financial gain is usually typically perpetrated on males, young boys, because they're the ones they want the money from. They use the photos, and then once they get the photos from the men, then they will use those in turn and sell those back to the traditional sex workers who use those to get women's photos. So, how this kind of works usually starts on Instagram or Snapchat. Typically, that's where you're seeing it is. They'll start on these platforms. They're going to push them off to another platform. So what they're going to do is they're going to reach out to you initially. Hey, how are you? You start the conversation, and then eventually at some point they're going to push you out to another thing. And then once the blackmail happens, then we're going to move to the cash payments that are typically gift cards or cash apps, such as Apple Pay, Venmo, Zelle, and crypto sometimes. The crypto's in there, but that's usually a secondary level of the process. But this is my family. There's Jordan on the left, my wife, and my two young girls are now 9 and 11. And they're the reason I'm here today. They're the reason I was in Nebraska last week, and when my daughter was at a soccer tournament, and it was my wife and I's anniversary. Because it's important. Because Jordan deserves this. And Brady does, and the other 36 that died. And the ones that we're trying to be here to prevent tonight. So that's why we're here. This is Jordan. 6'2", 185 pounds, dual sport athlete, all conference basketball player, stunning wide receiver. He had everything going for his life. He was a prom king. He had a beautiful girlfriend named Kyle. They were together for about a year and a half. He was 5 weeks from graduating high school, 5 weeks from his 18th birthday. He actually had enough credits to graduate. His mother and I walked across the stage to accept his diploma. He was everything that all these young, beautiful minds are in this building during the school hours. Honorable student, extremely talented athlete, had the whole life ahead of him. And it all changed in 6 hours for us. So we met her. It's Miss Danny Roberts. Danny Roberts sent the first message through Instagram, and all it said was, hey. Jordan's mother and I divorced when he was 2. We traveled back and forth between our homes. We found we got off for his whole life. Thursday night at 10:15, he pulls into my driveway. I was heading out of the house in the garage to grab something out of my truck. He was coming in wheeling his bag. We were going to Florida for 2 weeks the next morning to the beach. We go every year. Jordan and I love going to the beach together. We bring the whole family. We do it every year. It's one of our favorite vacations. Jordan loved the beach. He just got done shopping with his girlfriend for stuff to go to the beach. Suntan loans, sunglasses, ready to go. He's wheeling his bag in at 10:15. I said, hey, how's it going? Get some sleep, we gotta get up early. That's the last time I saw him. Miss Danny Roberts reached out and said, hey, at 10:15, hindsight being 2020, after reading this transcript, it's 150 pages long. This is language out of the actual transcript that happened, that we got during the investigation. At 10:15, right when I saw him, he literally had just responded to her message and started communicating with her. So he probably pulled in the driveway, saw that she friend requested and accepted, and said, hey, I'm Jordan, I live in Michigan, whatever. She said that she's from Atlanta, Georgia area. He said, oh, cool. I'm going to be in the Columbus area tomorrow morning. We're going to Florida right to our family in the Columbus, Georgia that we stop at. Conversation always starts off, as you can imagine. hey, how's it going? Where are you from? What do you do? What are you into? Do you like sports? As you can see, what do you do for fun? Jordan says, I play sports and listen to music. What about you? And as this conversation goes on, it sounds fun. I like to hang out with friends. And then she throws out a little hook here. This is I like to play sexy games. Sorry, that came out wrong, my bad. So this is when they're first sitting out there. They've tried grooming him now for a little over an hour or so. And now they're going to try to hook him in and see where he's at. She said, sorry if I got you upset. Just for thought you might want to have some fun. It's actually a sneak peek pic exchange, no screenshots here, you down? Fun though, nothing else. It's actually a live mirror pic exchange showing your sexy body, no screenshots. You get what I mean? She keeps coming back. Jordan's not responding. She keeps throwing things out there. Yeah, it said on view once, or it said on view once after viewing it disappears. Of course, I can go first if you like. He's still not responding, so then she throws this up. But you're home, right? So it's a softball question, trying to get him engaging, and he does. Yeah. Oh, cool. You can just take a mirror snap showing you're ready, and I'll go first with the sexy pic. Fun fact, these extortionists now are asking for, or have been asking for pictures in mirrors for a purpose. They want to make sure that they can get things in the background, so they can validate the photo if they need to. They want to make sure that there's things that belong to Jordan in that background, or breaking or whatever. So it's purposeful. Jordan comes back and says, well, you follow a lot of people from my town that I know. And she's like, oh, what do you mean? I think some follow me, but he said, well, you follow them back. I just noticed that. And then the guilt trip. Well, if you don't want to play, it's cool, just thought you were cool and make me down for some fun. So she's trying to throw a guilt trip at him. And Jordan here, his neck is, hairs on the neck are standing up, and he's probably trying to do the right thing. He said, now I've got a girlfriend though, and I feel kind of sketched. I don't know. I don't think I'd send no. He's in the right mindset. He's thinking. He's making the right decision at this point. If you don't want it to look bad, but not like I said, just for fun though, it's not like I will just come to your home and date you. I didn't write that as tight like that. Other red flags for people as they're communicating with random people online is you can start to see the inefficiencies of the English language. Jordan comes back, it's 11:50 at night. I know you wouldn't come and date me, but it's going against my girlfriend's back. That's the whole point, because if I fall for this, and then it's some prank or some shit to get me caught, then that's not good. No kidding, Jordan. Right? Still thinking. $12.49, Danny Roberts sends the first nude pic. This stuff goes on for a little while, and Jordan sends a couple other pictures. She just basically got him comfortable sending pictures. So what they want to do is they want to just send me a picture of yourself. Send me a picture, just a normal picture. And then they slowly take them down the rabbit hole. And what they do now is she sends the first nude pic to get him spun up more. Right? 17 years old, 15 years old, 14 years old, these young kids are just getting spun up hormonally. And that's why they send that first pic. So then Jordan sends a picture, not in the bathroom, and sends a picture clothed, and then she sends a second nude pic. So she's just egging him on. And then Jordan finally sends a dick pic, taken from his bathroom mirror in his bedroom. Miss Danny Roberts at 1:15 sends a third nude picture and then tells Jordan, I'm putting a video together for you. I can only imagine what's going through his mind at this point. He just got some naked pictures from this girl and now he's going to get a video. So Jordan sends another picture. And then at 1:23 in the morning, Jordan gets this Miss Daniel Roberts sends 3 photo collages. Each photo collage has a dick pic in the middle of it. And surrounding it was all of his family and friends in a circle. Friends' moms, teammates' moms, friends, all of us. So Jordan sees those 3 collages. And she says, I have all your screenshots. I have screenshot all your followers and tags, can send this news to everyone. And also send your nudes to your family and friends until it goes viral. All you need to do is cooperate with me and I won't expose you. And Jordan says, what do I gotta do? Just pay me right now and I won't expose you. Jordan says, how much? They started at $1,000. This is at 1:23 in the morning. Everybody in my house is upstairs sleeping. Deal or no deal? Jordan doesn't have a rent. Jordan worked at McDonald's and he changed out toilets in my property management company. He did not have $1,000. Jordan had about $355 total in his accounts. As this negotiation stuff went on, we went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Jordan replied, please stop. Just delete him. Why are you doing this to me? And then they started with compromise. She wanted 500, and she ended up going to 500. Jordan says, I don't have 500. And then the pressure kept going. Your choice. 10, 9, 8, 7. You better get moving. They ended up settling on 300. Jordan says, I'll pay you 300. This is a screenshot of Jordan's phone paying 300 through Apple Pay. Any law enforcement doing more than these guys? Any other law enforcement here? Or I have some fun, interesting information to learn about how this case is going to unravel. There's some interesting things here, but one of them is when Jordan made the money payments, he was starting with Zelle. He couldn't get it figured out, so extortioners sent him Zelle information, couldn't get that going. Then they sent him another Cash App address, couldn't get that to work, and then went to Apple Cash. But when the investigation happened, they actually linked all 3 of those accounts back to the same person, which was kind of interesting. 2 a.m., Daniel Roberts says, I'm deleting after he pays $300. So Jordan thinks he should come out of the woods, right? 1 minute later, she comes back and says, oh, it's uploading on Google at 55% and I need another $800. This stuff doesn't stop. This went back and forth for quite a while. Jordan didn't have any money. He was sending screenshots of his bank accounts to them, proving that he didn't have any more money. He had $55 in the savings account. He had 2 accounts in the bank. He had a checking account that he drained with $300 and maybe $55 in the savings. They saw that they had 55, so he ended up sending that 55. That transaction actually never went through because the bank caught it as fraud, and so that $55 never went through, but there was conversation back and forth about that. Shortly hereafter, during that conversation, and this is the reason why I'm standing here today, it isn't typically the right mode of operation for these folks. They actually sent one of the collage photos, or the collage photos, to his girlfriend, Kyla, at 2:30 in the morning. Of course, she's sleeping and didn't receive this. They may have had intentions to pull that message back. They sent it to her, and she ended up getting it. 3:28 in the morning. After Jordan pled for them to stop, I paid you, I did what you wanted to do. He came back and said, okay, then I'll watch you die a miserable death. Jordan's pleading. 6 audio calls were made. Unfortunately, we don't have that information, but this is probably when Jordan found out that Daniel Roberts was not a nice young lady from Atlanta. He was a man, 19, from Nigeria. At 3:41 in the morning, picture of Jordan's cell phone on the left with a text message to his girlfriend saying, "Kyle, I love you so much. I made a big mistake and I wish I could continue, but I cannot do this anymore. This was from a choice I made and I must pay myself." On the right, same minute, he messages, "Mother, I love you." At 3:44, Jordan shot himself in his bedroom. I woke up at 7:30 to a text message from his mother. It said, "Hey, is Jordan at school today? Will you make it to school?" I got up and I said, "Mom, he always makes it to school." I looked out the window and I saw his car in the driveway. And I thought that was strange because he should have been at school 20 minutes ago. I went downstairs. I opened his door and looked at his light and he was in his bed. Pistol in his right hand, and his cell phone laying in his lap. Florida bag was packed at the end of it, ready to go. Right before Jordan died, Miss Amy Roberts, Mr. Amy Roberts, we're calling now, said, "It's over, you win, bro. Goodbye. I'm killing myself right now because of you." And their reply before he did it was, "Good. Do it fast or I'll make you do it, I swear to God." And that's the type of people we're going to have. That morning, obviously, it was chaos. Police came, fire department guys. I was on our fire department for 10 years. The guys I worked with for years, who knew Jordan, showed up. After all that was over, we went to Kyle's house that afternoon, figure out what's going on. We had no idea, zero idea what's going on. Everything was great, happy, everything was perfect. We're going to Florida, this is awesome, and this whole life-changing thing happened right in front of our eyes. I was sleeping on our nose. Kyle had no idea what was going on, but we found out a little later that that picture that was sent at 2:30 in the morning, she opened up her Instagram around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, saw the picture, started communicating with the extortionists. They were going to start to extort her as well. "He's dead," she said. "He killed himself last night." Another investigative fun part. The law enforcement picked that up. We obviously sent that photo to our detective that night, and we had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what was going on. Even with my background, I was like, something's not right, this is not right. The detective probably knew exactly what it was he needed. So they grabbed the picture and opened up the investigation. They started on Friday night. They sent the search warrants through the emergency procedures thing with Meta that they had. They got denied. So they had to do a traditional search warrant affidavit, preservation limits through our courts and submitted it the old-fashioned way. Thankfully, like would normally take 4 to 6 weeks, ended up taking less than 24 hours. They had a copy of that transcript in their email with some supporting documents by Sunday night. They called us on Sunday night and said, "Hey, this is extortion." I said, "That's what?" "It's extortion." They explained what it was. And here we are today. The fun fact is, when the investigation started, the FBI picked it up, obviously, on Monday morning, and they found the IP address was going to Nigeria pretty quickly. So what they did is, because Kyle had told these guys that Jordan died, they said, "Well, because the obit is in our local paper online, we're going to do a search warrant to the newspaper and get all the IP addresses that are opening up the link, the obituary." That IP address, right over to Nigeria multiple times. Helped with the case. That was pretty smart. James Draska, head of the FBI in Michigan, just retired last year. He's the guy that he is the head of the whole FBI in Michigan. Our local guys went up to food food chain, and Jim said, do whatever you gotta do. We're gonna get these guys. Jim used to be stationed 30 years ago in Lagos, Nigeria. So when his case ended up in Lagos, Nigeria, Jim calls his old friend Abdul Karim, who was also a young agent 30 years ago in the EFCC, which is the Nigerian FBI. Jim calls him up and says, hey, we need some help, we have a case. He said, let's do it. The EFCC puts a team together that they can trust. With the FBI, this relationship is built. And as of today, we have 13 arrests in this case, 7 Nigerians and 6 Americans. First time in the United States history, there was 3 federal indictments, and 2 extraditions into this country for sextortion. They went through our court system in Grand Rapids. They ended up pleading guilty. They were sentenced last year. They were in prison for about 17 years right now. These 2 guys on the left, or excuse me, the guy on the right, your left and my right, I guess now, they're brothers. We Samson and Samuel Magashi, brothers. Teenagers, 18 and 19 at the time. The guy in the middle is Ezekiel Robert. He's a family friend. They were sitting in their living room, victimizing over 130 kids. And they extorted, with the 6 Americans were on the money laundering side, almost $200,000 a month. Samuel and Samson's father was a retired military officer in Nigeria, just retired, was still living on base at the time. Mr. Ezekiel Roberts is a family friend, also in the military. They were all living on base housing. They were sitting in their living room in Nigeria, on Nigerian base housing, victimizing 130 plus kids. The 6 Americans came in after the fact. So the 7 Nigerians that were arrested, these 3 idiots, 2 of them are in prison. Ezekiel Roberts is waiting his extradition right now. He's going through the appeals process. He could come tomorrow or never come at all. It's probably the latter at this point. He's still incarcerated in Nigeria today. The other Nigerians were ancillary to the investigation. So they were the account hacker, the money launderer, the plug that was getting all the money into the country, and a few other people. So what happens is when they finished up the investigation with the sextortionists, we went back and mopped up all the money launderers. Because you can't just stick money in an envelope and send it to Nigeria, right? So what happens is they hire money guys, just like they bought pictures and they bought fake accounts. They paid services to a money plug, a money launderer in Nigeria, who had a bank account. And a cryptocurrency exchange linked to that bank account. That money launderer on Discord put an ad out for American money launderers. I need some help to launder money in Nigeria. Mr. Williams responded to that and said, I'll do it. He sets up a bank account, lives in Atlanta, Georgia, gets a cryptocurrency exchange account linked to that, and then starts recruiting some other people to help. He recruits 5 other people. So when Jordan paid that $100, it went to Mr. Green was his name. Mr. Green had an Apple account, so the money went into his checking account. He then uploaded the money into a cryptocurrency account and bought Bitcoin with it, transferred the Bitcoin over to the money launderer in Nigeria. That money launderer sells the Bitcoin for Nigerian money, deposits into their Nigerian bank, and then sends the money to those clients. So everybody takes their cut. Social media. Let's talk about that for a minute. So much to talk about here, but there's not enough here in this county to have this discussion. But we're going to talk a little bit about some of the surface level stuff, right? As you can see when you read, or you saw some of those transcripts, You'll see right here, it's almost verbatim. What we found out in the investigation later is that our knuckleheads were actually being trained by a group called the Yahoo Boys. These guys operate online, on YouTube. There's still videos out there today. You can go and learn how to do this right on YouTube, right on social media. It's all there for you to learn. You wouldn't think that shit would be on there, but it is. That's my French. Tips, tricks, these guys have a whole program. Learn how to do it, how to apply the pressure, when to apply the pressure, exact things to say, when to say it, and then they post about it on social media. My first client is a Yahoo boy. Black women boys. You need to go and post. It's an organization. When there's an update, there's an update. If you're part of this organization that's in the update, if you find a way to do it a little faster, a little quicker, a little better, the update it. So like just the kid I talked to tonight, an hour ago, I told him, I said, these guys are professionals. They learn how to do this. It's their job. You can't bang your head against the wall too hard because they knew how to get inside of you. They knew how to manipulate you. They knew everything to say. They've been practicing this. It's tried and true because they find it online. This was April of 2024. Bloomberg came in and did a nice article about Jordan and kind of exposed some of this stuff and talked a little bit about social media and their implicit algorithms and different things that are happening. And what was interesting, not only 6 weeks later, in July, Meta goes out. This is Meta means Facebook and Instagram. They own both those platforms. 6 weeks after Bloomberg launches that article, that's an international publication. Bloomberg is huge if you don't know what Bloomberg Newsweek is. That was the front page of their news. 6 weeks after that published, Meta goes and deletes 63,000 Nigerian sextortion accounts. How in God's creation did they go out and find 63,000 accounts like that? Why? Because they knew they were there. They knew how to do this already. But Mark Zuckerberg and his team at Facebook and Meta, when that article came out, got heat and said, we have to do something to the public to show that we're doing something about this, and this was the answer. So they pulled out a needle in a haystack to make themselves look good. The point is that they knew about it, and they obviously can do it, so why don't they keep doing it? They're not. Facebook is not there. Instagram is not there. TikTok is not there. Snapchat is not there for you all to talk to one another. It was when Mark Zuckerberg stole it from his roommate. That's what it was for. But it isn't today. Today is to make money off of you. If you aren't paying to be a subscriber to it, you are the product. That is what Facebook is, that is what Instagram is, that is what all these are. Do you think Instagram and Snapchat put filters on their platforms for you to have fun with? No. They put filters on there so you could get your 6-year-old sister and brother on there to play around with it, to get them used to it, so they can get lifelong users earlier and earlier and earlier. Because the more clicks, more time on screen, means more money because it's more ads they sell you. They all make money by selling ads. They don't make money because you subscribe to them. They make money because they sell ads to Walmart and Target, to you folks. And they build addictive algorithms to get you to stay there to see them. So you're a pawn in the game. So they don't care about this stuff. Why? For 2 reasons. There's only two things that can change a company's behavior. Civil lawsuits and legislative change. You cannot sue Instagram. I have a lawsuit against Instagram, which I will never win. Because there's a law in the United States called Section 230 that gives them blanket immunity on everything. They cannot be sued. Can you imagine that? I use the example, I drove here 5 hours today. I put my seatbelt on in my GMC pickup truck. I drove here on the highway and I was confident that if I got in an accident, that seatbelt was there, and I had a reasonable belief that that seatbelt was going to be there for me. Now, if GM said, hey, you know what, John, that seatbelt probably isn't going to work, it might work, but you should be a better driver, so you don't need it. And then that seatbelt was malfunctioning and killing people all the time, can you imagine not being able to sue GM for that? That's the same thing that this tech company's doing. They're building algorithms and they're building product design that's harmful to people, mostly youth and adults, and we can't sue them. Legislatively, we don't know how that looks like. 51% of Gen Z have said, admitted that they've either had a friend or themselves have been targeted for catfishing online. And if you saw in the video, there's a little small piece, you might have missed it, but 1 in 4, and this is for the parents, or actually 1 in 5. 1 in 5 teenagers, 13 to 17, has either sent a photo or is sending photos. 1 in 5. If you have 5 teenagers at home, 1 of them is sending you pictures. That is the amount of people that have been interviewed and admitted to it as a teenager, right? So that number is probably more like half. And every single high school that I've ever been in pulls me aside and says, John, that's way more than 1 in 5. I'm like, I know, but that's the stat, that's what we're using. But it's still a scary stat, right? That's how young people communicate. That's how they communicate for friendship. That's how they communicate for sexual relationships. It all starts on phones and on devices. They're sending pictures back and forth. You have to understand those parents. Nick does a lot of tracking the stats. In 2023, it was 186,000 reports that came in. These are people that went on, that got involved and went on Nick's website and reported, right? 186,000. So we all know what numbers look like that are actually reported. How many go unreported? Probably getting 90%. In 21 and 23, it was up to 100%. Then in 2024, 1 year later, almost 450,000 reported. So you see the trend is going up. It's not slowing down. I just got a call today. They call it a week like that. It's happening every single minute. It's not a matter, if you're online as a teenager, I guess, 13 to 17, it isn't a matter of if you're going to get targeted for this, it's when. I get them all the time. I just had one last week from Spain or something. Beautiful, dark-haired lady wants to be my friend. Like, I'm 45 with dad bod, nobody wants to be my friend. Thank you. No, you don't. Delete. You know, but I'm 45, I didn't grow up with that. I don't meet friends on Facebook. I'm not reaching out to have friendships on Facebook. If I want to meet somebody, I come in a room like this and meet cool people, and I might be friends with you on Facebook, but I have some sort of relationship. Young people don't do that. They just accept friend requests from people all over the world. So you ask, what do we do about this, right? What are we doing about this? Especially legislatively. This was January of last year. This is a picture, I don't know if you all remember, it was on the news for a long time, it still is, they're talking about it again because there was just a bunch of whistleblowers on Capitol Hill in this room yesterday talking about some really bad stuff that Facebook's been doing, or Meta's been doing. I sat in that room, there was 25 families, see those pictures, there was 25 families and they lost kids. 8.5 by 11, so 25 dead kids in that room, and there was 8 CEOs, Mark Zuckerberg from Meta, that was Jason from Discord, TikTok is in there, they're all in there. That was the Senate Judiciary Committee. There was 6 bills on the table at the time, federal bills, to start to work on some legislative things to minimize some of these issues that were happening on social media. They brought all these CEOs in here to question them, to face all these parents in that room, and explain to them why they're not supporting them. 25 dead kids because of their misbehavior in their companies had to sit there and explain it. PROSA is the biggest one. Kids Online Safety Act. This is common stuff. It just requires them to provide safeguards and tools for minors. Why is that so hard? Why is it so hard to enable the strongest safety settings on default? So when you're 13-year-old, because Facebook and Instagram thinks 13 is the appropriate age for that, and when your 13-year-old gets an account, why he wouldn't have a reasonable expectation to think that all the safeguards that they have for minor accounts would automatically be on. And they're not. Actually, they are not. I think they actually changed that, but this was in that bill. So these are really basic things that we're trying to get done. And we can't because big companies, lobbyists come in to any of the senators and start saying that they're going to vote for this stuff, dump millions of dollars in, and threaten them. Earn Acts, Defiance Acts, the SHIELD Act, TSRA, the Trafficking Survivors Relief Act. I mean, this is common sense stuff. Take it down. This was the only one out of the 6 bills at the time that made it to the end. When COSA started, the Kids Online Safety Act, that started in the Senate, in their committee. When I was in that Judiciary Committee meeting, all the senators, Republican and Democrat, every single one of them, bipartisan, unanimously supported all 6 of these bills. COSA went to the Senate like 6 months later and made it through like 93-2. Very popular. Went over to the House, skipped the committee, and then the presidential election happened, and then we were lame duck. Sat on Mike Johnson's desk and never went to the floor for a vote, and then it dies. Take it down, made it past the finish line. President Trump actually signed that a month ago. David Erb, I met him in Washington, D.C. at an event he was speaking. He's a Facebook whistleblower. He was a product, he kind of went through and looked at all the content in the back end of the platforms. That was his specialty. He worked for YouTube years ago, and he discovered that YouTube was having this massive problem with CSAM, child porn, basically. And he said, we need to take a look at this. So the CEO kind of gave him the free rein to go through with the team and kind of dive into what was happening behind the scenes. Builds a program, goes in the back end of YouTube, and this program wipes out a ton of explicit material from the platform. It was like, wow, this is great. As a company, it was good for everybody. So actually, YouTube went to the other tech companies, Mark Zuckerberg and the others, and said, hey, we built this really cool program. It's pulling out all this nasty stuff that we have that we can't control. Would you like to have it? Well, we'll do it for free. And then he said no. And a single woman said yes. So when this happened, David Erb actually got hired by Facebook. David took a job with London and did the same thing for Facebook and found the same thing. Facebook had enormous amounts of stuff that needed to be removed. So he went to his upper staff at Facebook, and they didn't want to do anything about it either. And so after a year or two of this and fighting, Dave's like, well, we need to do something because this is really bad. And they said, not only we're not going to do anything about it, but we're going to be encrypting all of our messages. And what that means is that when you message somebody on Facebook or Instagram, between you and I, it's encrypted so they can't see it either. It's private between us. Sounds great. They sold it to the public like that. But the reason is because if they don't know what's happening in the messaging and what's happening behind the scenes, they don't have to admit to anything. And so David called on Greg on that and said, you can't do that. He said, you can do it with the adult accounts, but the minor accounts, you cannot do that because I have a stack of literature right here and a stack of conversations that show us how bad this stuff is. Facebook said, no, we're doing it anyway. David quit his job, whistle blows, and he's doing his own thing now. Facebook ended up encrypting and everything, and here we are today. Fun fact though, when I talked to David, I just for fun, I said, hey Dave, in your opinion, because you know, how many accounts do you think Meta has that are fake, fraudulent, or duplicate? Without hesitating, he said 50%. I said 50%. He said, yeah, at least 50%. So he, who worked at Facebook, says half of the users are fake, fraudulent, and duplicate. So that right there doesn't tell you how truthful social media is, or how truthful that platform is. I don't know what it does. Literally half of what's on it is fake, right? Right off the top. Take down at NCMEC. NCMEC again is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have this really cool website. So if you find yourself in a situation that you took a picture, like this young man tonight here in Minnesota next door here. I said, you still have the picture. He's like, I think it's still in the thread. I said, get the picture, go to this website, walk through the prompts, and he was only 15 minutes out, right? It's so new. What we'll do is this program will actually surf through these participating tech companies, and they will remove those images if they ever come up. Or if they're on there, we'll take them down. So this is a really nice defensive tool for young people. If you get yourself in a situation where you sent it, and you're early enough, you can probably do that. Now, if you send a picture and then 4 weeks later you want to do this, it might be a little harder, I don't know. But probably sooner the better for it. Teenagers in the room, there's a few, right? You have to understand that this is a crime. This is a crime against you for all the reasons we talked about. These guys are professionals, and they know what they're doing. But if it does happen, you have to stop and breathe and think. You might not remember all these, but if you can, just don't delete any. Because it makes it very difficult for these people up here to get to where we are today in investigative work. You can delete everything. Get the username, and you can report the user on the platform where the report button is, and you can block them. Notify law enforcement or trusted help. ICAC is the recommended detective division that I would recommend calling. And I told Garrett about an hour ago, I sent them a link, I told them to call the sheriff's department. He has a small PD. I said, no, just call your sheriff's department and ask for an ICAC detective. They know what's going on, they know how to handle these, they deal with them every single day, all day long, they know exactly what to do, when to do it. They have the tools to take these cases to the next level. Parents, this poor mother dropped on the phone when she called me. Just relax, get your insurance. It's okay. It's going to be a nothing burger. Right? Shut the computer. As soon as that computer gets shut, all goes away. These people are out for money. It's a financial crime. They want your money. When our guys are sitting in that living room victimizing 130 different people, if you're not giving them money and you're calling them out or blocking them, they're going to move on. Contact local law enforcement against spread the word too. The other part of the issue that we have is these happen all the time. Like I told Garrett tonight on the phone, I said, Garrett, you don't understand. There's probably a dozen other kids in your social circle that this has already happened to that haven't said anything. It's a private thing. That's why it's such a good crime. It's just high pressure. It's emotions and having this picture out there and all those things. It's so private, right? We don't want to talk about it. We just want to forget that it happened. But at the end of the day, we need to talk about it a little bit. If this happened, and all the soccer moms and all the football dads got together and said, hey, this happened to little Johnny, you'd be, it happened too. It happened too. That's what happened with us. The Jordan guy, first week, I was getting calls from a dozen people in my social circle that said, hey, John, don't tell anybody. This happened to little Johnny too. We want to support you. And I got that call after call after call right in my own community. And then I realized how much of a problem this was. And then we made a public statement about it the following week after Jordan died, and all this story started garnering legs, and it is what it is today. But the point is that it's happening to a lot of people. Just like Braden's friend, I found out later that Jordan, my son, was in a conversation with one of his friends for 4 hours of the 6. That friend, to this day, has never said a word to me. I know who it is. He's never said anything to me. It's not his fault. He's a victim too. Just like Jordan's friend, just like Braden's friend, we have to tell people. We have to. These are serious things, right? Spread the word. Defensive parenting. This is the hard part, right? This is the hard part. I have a 9 and 11-year-old. I don't know what I'm going to do. I really don't know what I'm going to do. Mine are already asking for phones, right? 11 years old, Portia was phone. She's in 6th grade. Every junior high that I've talked to, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, 90% of 6th graders have phones now. Which is crazy to me, but it is. It is what it is. But one thing I did learn, and Brittany kind of touched on a little bit, is having the device up at night. Jordan was almost 18 years old. I really didn't care at that point if he had his phone in his room or where he had his phone. I didn't care if he went to bed or not at that point. I mean, 5 weeks later, I was ready to punt his tail out of the house and live his life, right? I'm not here for the 18-year-olds. Jordan's situation was just a unicorn. I'm here for the 15-year-olds and 12 and 13s and 14s and 15s and 16s. They do not have the capacity to handle those major life decisions, major adult decisions, at 14 years old. They're just not old enough for it. They cannot have their phones and devices in the room. That's where it all happens. There was a kid on the block that's going to be sextorting and taking pictures of themselves in the living room when everybody's having dinner, right? It all happens at night in the private areas. We have to remember that our cell phones, and I think Rick and I even said it, these cell phones, you're giving, not only are you giving your kids at 14 years old access to the whole world, you're giving the whole world access to your 14-year-old. Think about that. You think you have the parental control set? You think you have the Verizon stuff set? No. They're going to work around that. Right? Jordan did. He had a phone when he was 10. Jordan had a contract that I made him sign. He will do this and will do this. Any contacts had to be approved by me. He was allowed to communicate with anybody with his contacts, all these things. And I set a router in my house. So we had our own router, and then he had a router, and it had all the controls on it. And then I had a timer on it, shut down at 8 o'clock, so we can access the internet. We did all that. I had an app that mirrored all his text messages. Excuse me. So every text message he sent and received, I get to see him too. I grab his phone, look at it, we read his girlfriend's text messages at the dinner table. Every once in a while, I'm like, let's get your phone, I'll read what you and your girlfriend are talking about. And I make him read the text messages that his girlfriend was talking about at the dinner table. It's funny. It's a good time to talk. What about electronic devices in private areas? Modern devices, gaming systems. You know, I don't talk enough about gaming systems. I'm not a gamer. We don't do video games in my house. But this is a massive, massive problem. Roblox. Where do you think all the predators are looking for young people? In the video games. They're posing as other younger people. And they're drawing these younger people in. And they're grooming them to do all kinds of things. And there's all kinds of crazy things that are coming down the line right now with sadistic enticement and different things that's happening. Sextortion, it is absolutely wild. It is happening, and a lot of it's coming from the games. You have to be aware of what's happening in your kids' video games. Setting ground rules. No phone as long as possible. No social media until 16. Quiet time after 8. Devices up. I don't know what the answer is. Most of the people in this space, I think, are pretty on the same page with no phone as long as possible, of course, but 16 kind of seems to be the age of social media. In my opinion, 16 kind of seems to be the age for a cell phone, too. The other thing that I'm kind of looking at too a lot is Apple Watches, right? This watch can receive calls and text messages. I can't take pictures with this watch, and I can't really get on the internet with this watch, but I can communicate with it. My girls have, what are they called? Gizmos. From Verizon, they suck. Yeah, they're just garbage, right? They die after about 7 minutes, and they're never plugged in, they're always lost. And so the Apple Watches are durable, they last forever, they're pricey and all that things, but this is probably the best alternative, in my opinion, at this point with this. And then, of course, just have conversations with kids. We have to be able to get kids, our friends, kids' friends' kids, all of that, come to us and say, hey, something's not right online. And so what I'm teaching my 9 and 11-year-old is, hey, you can be on my device on the couch while I cook dinner, and you can watch YouTube, or you can do whatever on it while I'm there to monitor it. But what I tell them, if you see anything fishy, just let me know. Doesn't have to, whatever, if you just see something goofy, just let me know. And then every once in a while, my daughter's like, well, I saw this person, this, you know, I'm like, yeah, okay, appreciate that. It's okay though, you know, so I get them comfortable coming and talking to me about silly little things that are happening online. What we don't do is we don't allow electronics past our hallway into their bedrooms. No computers, there's no TVs in there, there's no phones in there, nothing. Bedrooms are for sleeping. Homework, if it's on an electronic device, is not done in the bedroom. It's done in our office in our house, or on the kitchen table at our house. I'm lucky I have an open floor plan. I have to build a new home after I go to bed. And I built an open floor plan, I put an office and all the things that I ever wanted in my life. I'm being yearly for it now. But that's where they do that stuff. They don't do it in rooms. There's 0 electronic devices. I don't even know why I built the house. I don't even know why I put outlets in there. Because nothing's getting plugged in except for the line. Again, I'll continue with this. Just talk to someone. Like I said before, Jordan and Braden, and probably a lot of these other kids, that Olive Branch probably went out. There was a kid on the line with Jordan who was going to this. There was a kid on the line and he was just going to Braden. We have to talk to kids. We have to have an open conversation. We have to get them comfortable with talking about this stuff. And I apologize to the young people in this room because you do not deserve any of this. You do not deserve to have to make extreme life decisions and adult decisions at 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. It is not fair to you. But parents, I'm as guilty as them all, have to do a better job of making sure that we can protect our kids from that too. So I appreciate everybody's time, and if you have questions, I think we're doing a panel. But I'd be happy to ask any questions whenever or after. Catch me in here all night. Thank you.
Why don't we all stand up and stretch and get our blood flowing a little bit? Are emerging from local data and case reports about online targeting of adolescents and young people. And how can we use these insights and examples to better protect and educate our students? Patrick.
Hello, my name is Patrick. I'm a detective with the Burnett County Sheriff's Office. I've been with Burnett County for about 10 years. As a detective, I kind of focus on sensitive crimes and crimes against children in our county. A lot of what I have is previously talked about. They did a phenomenal job talking about this. And what I've been seeing recently is where it starts out, kids are playing games, they're on different applications, communicating with friends, and they start talking to people they don't know. And that's really where this starts. Kids have access to phones, tablets, computers that talk to everyone in the world nowadays. To stop it, we got to make sure kids understand that if they have never met the person before, they shouldn't be talking to them online. I do internet safety talks. I've been in all the schools in Burnett County, and the biggest things we want to tell kids when I leave is that if you've never met someone in life before, you don't want to talk to them online. And 2, if something's happened, no matter what's happened, it's not their fault, and they need to report it to us. And I think that's the biggest takeaways that we need to provide to our youth, to get them help when this occurs. And hopefully if kids stop talking to people they don't know, we can prevent this from happening in the future.
That's all I have. Thank you, Patrick. Let's make sure we thank YOBC and their very diligent workers. Haley's back here. Rachel, is there anyone else I'm going to miss?
Well, there's a handful.
A whole handful of YOBC. If you don't know what YOBC is, it's Youth of Burnett County. I got started involved a couple years ago and somebody asked me to be involved, and it's worked out really, really well. And I enjoy it. But a night like this does not happen by accident. So those people certainly deserve a big thank you. So next question, and I just figured out how to say her name. Are there specific warning signs parents, caregivers, or educators should watch for that may indicate a child is being targeted or is hesitant to disclose what's happening online? Mallory Zazenhaus. Sarah.
You want the mic?
Yeah. Did everybody hear me? Yeah, okay. So, yes, I'm Mallory Zazenhaus. I work with for the Wisconsin Department of Justice, the Division of Criminal Investigation, and I primarily work Internet Crimes Against Children, or ICAC. That is my primary role. I've been with DOJ for about 2.5 years, and prior to that, I was a law enforcement officer for the Menominee Police Department. So we are out of the Oak Clark field office. But back to the question, are there specific warning signs? Kind of like John and Brittany both said, this can happen so fast. 37 minutes, 4 hours, 6 hours. Even if you are the top-notch A parents, the likelihood of noticing or seeing something different in that short of a time period is probably going to be pretty slim. And that's the unfortunate part. It's the silent killer, it's the cell phone. You don't always know what's going on in that cell phone. If you're not in the cell phone and reading the exact messages, you're not going to know. And that's the super sad part. And that's why these conversations with the kids have to happen before this ever happens. So open up that conversation. Sometimes in the longer term sextortions, when it does go on for weeks at a time, you can see a couple of the signs. If some of the kids start receiving gifts in the mail, if they're receiving cell phones, if they're receiving webcams, or sometimes we've seen clothing items get sent, that these people that are maybe looking for more of the images rather than the financial part of the sextortion, they'll send clothing items that they want the child to take pictures in and things like that. If your child starts minimizing the screen or shutting off the cell phone the minute you walk in the room, that should be a red flag. They're probably hiding something they don't want you to see. So if that's something you see, that when you're walking behind them, or if you walk in the room and they can't get rid of their phone fast enough, that should raise the red flags for you guys. And then just distancing themselves. When all they want to do is, I know teenagers are hard, you never really know what's going on anyway, but when they want to spend more time in their room and on their phone than they do with the family, start asking some questions. Why are they distancing themselves? Is it because of friend issues at home, or is it because of something going on online? Ask those questions. And then being upset when you tell them that they can't go online. If they get upset to the point where they are crying and throwing fits, I don't know if you guys have seen some of the videos where parents will videotape their kid throwing like the ultimate tantrum. There should be some red flags of why is this such a big deal that I'm not letting them online for an hour or 2 hours, or I'm cutting them off for the night. So again, it comes down to just having those conversations, starting early, starting often, and making sure that the communication is open with them. So.
Thank you. What are some signs you can teach your child to recognize while communicating online so they can better protect themselves from potential risks like sextortion? Josh? I can say that.
Yes, my name is Josh Traeger. I am also a special agent with the Wisconsin Department of Justice, Division of Criminal Investigation. I work with Mallory and have been following her around in her career path. I also work for Menominee PD, and then came to DCI about a year and a half after she did. So whenever Mallory goes somewhere, I'm going to follow her around. But So with that, and John touched on some of the things I'm going to talk about with, what kids can look for when they're talking to people. First and foremost, and I think the big umbrella thing here today is education and communication with your kids is important. And making sure that they understand these warning signs or things to look for. But we're looking at things like the profile. And Patrick said earlier, if you've never met somebody in real life, you shouldn't be talking to them online. And I think that's a good rule of thumb to live by and tell your kids, no matter what age, whether they're 5, 6, 7, or 14, 15, 16. But we're looking at those profile pictures or the profiles in general. Depends on the platform. Maybe they just get a text out of the blue. Well, sorry, if that phone number is not my phone, I'm not responding to them. I don't know who that is. Or if it's an Instagram and I'm not their friend on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, and maybe they're following 300 people, but they have one follower, that should be a red flag. Why is only one person following you and you're following 300? Okay, yeah, it shows you have mutual friends, but okay, all mutual friends are all my guy friends that I have, or all the girlfriends that I have, So just certain things to look out for with the profile. The profile picture, if you remember in that video, Take It Down to the Garage. No Escape Room from NECMEC, that video we played earlier, John played earlier, there's that, the girl sent a picture of her face, it was clearly like AI, very, very pretty girl, If you get something like that, that's a red flag too. But there's also, a lot of these, like John had talked about with the sextortion for just getting the pictures from females. These are legitimate females that are sending images, and these images are being used to financially sextort or extort the males too. So again, it's just, you gotta be careful, look at the profile. If the child decides to continue or talk to this person, be aware of the chats or how the conversation progresses. We've kind of talked about how the conversation progresses pretty quickly into let's play some sexy games or let's send images. And if the chat is progressing very quickly into sending nude images or images in general, that should be a red flag, something to look out for. John also touched on it earlier with switching different platforms. And in another presentation that I do, I have a graphic that shows which platforms are used in different capacities, but Instagram is a huge one right now, so they can get a direct message on Instagram and say, hey, let's go over to text or let's go over to Snap. And so if your child is getting a request, friend request, they start talking and say, hey, let's go over to Snap or let's go to text, that should be a red flag right there, okay? And talk about the more aggressive, more forward, and just those are the things that you as your child should look for in these chats and be careful of. There was something else I can't remember off the top of my head, but if I think about it, I'll come back to it. Thank you.
Mallory, what should someone do immediately if they or their child becomes a victim of sextortion?
Yeah, so John had this very slide up there. And if you guys, or if you need some of these cards, we have little pocket cards that say this exact thing. So it says, I sent a nude and now I'm being threatened, what should I do? It says, this is called sextortion, it's not your fault and you are not alone. So the first thing is stop responding, okay? The conversation just needs to end, whether you close the computer, close the cell phone, stop the conversation, because no matter how many times, whether you do or do not respond, their messages are gonna come in like hot fire. You stop, they just keep coming in, one after another. Do not respond, do not send money. I know that they say, we're gonna send your chats out, or we're gonna send your pictures out. Oftentimes they do not, sometimes they do. So we can't say never send them out, because sometimes they do send them out. But the fact is, if you send money, it's never gonna be enough. You send 500, it's never enough. You could send 5,000, it's never enough. They will not quit until they get more and more. And the only way to stop it is to stop responding, okay? And like you said, block the user, but do not delete the chats, okay? Deleting the account, deleting the chats, that makes it difficult for law enforcement to gather the information that we need to track down the suspect. If you happen to delete the chats and that's your version of stop responding, that's okay. It doesn't hurt anything. It may hurt the investigation part, but ultimately, if you're no longer being sextorted, that's great. Okay, the quicker that you can stop being the victim, or stop having to deal with that high pressure chats, that's what we're looking for. And then report the crime. Again, it could be to a teacher, to a mandated reporter, to law enforcement, report to some adult who knows how to get the help. And as law enforcement, again, we're going to do what we can to track these guys down, guys, gals, whoever it may be. It can be a long process. Sometimes it takes a long time, depending on where they're at. So the answers aren't always super simple, but we do the best that we can. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
I don't have a name here, so I'm just going to throw this up. How can parents and educators create safe spaces for kids to talk about these experiences without fear or shame?
That's actually going to be me, and people usually have a hard time hearing me, so I'm going to pull the mic out. And I'm going to go off script just momentarily because honestly our questions 5 and 6 go together quite a bit. So I'm going to answer both, and then number 6 is what are effective ways to talk to kids about sextortion before it happens in an age-appropriate and empowering way. And then I'll let our law enforcement fill in if I miss something. So they really go together. The first thing is start talking. Talk often, talk early, talk repeatedly, in a non-judgmental, calm way before you're in the situation. On the OBC table, there is a handout called Conversation Starters. It's 2 sides. It gives you a lot of ways to start the conversation, but use some of the resources. In a few minutes, Mallory is going to walk you through their website. I have some linked on the handouts in the folder on the QR folder. There's a lot of different places like NetSmart and things like that. I recommend following Officer Gomez on social media. There's videos out there that you can watch the video with your kid to start the conversation in a safe way and discuss it that way. That's kind of the gist of it. Do you guys have anything to add to that? So pick up handouts. There's a lot of handouts on a lot of different tables. Use the QR code, and then we'll show you a couple places on the internet too.
Thank you. The last item I have is number 7. What is one piece of advice or action you would want every person here tonight to take back to their family or community to help stop sextortion? One pearl.
I have more than that, but the thing from last time is with what kids look for that I forgot, modeling agency. I've had it before. These kids are contacted by a random person and say, hey, I work for a modeling agency. Let's take some pictures and do this. That's a red flag. Okay, that doesn't happen. Well, it shouldn't happen, but it does. But anyway, so one piece of advice, and it's been a big overarching umbrella for this whole evening, is just talk about it, okay? And a lot of what we do as ICAC investigators, as people who care about our youth in the online community, a lot of this stuff in the criminal justice community is kind of, in the shadows. You always hear about the big drug busts, you always hear about the car chases, you always hear, the list goes on. How many times do you hear about different internet crimes against children in your community? You don't, right? Because it's behind the scenes, it's online, it's faceless, right? I feel like there's a stigma or something about, kids, as John said earlier, kids be kids do dumb things, it happens, right? But there's kind of this stigma where if your kid does do something online that they probably shouldn't, we don't want to talk about that because we don't want our kid to be that kid. We don't want our kid to be that kid, right? And John, I like when you talked about earlier how you had some people in your community reaching out to you and say, hey, don't tell anybody, but this happened to my kid. Don't tell anybody, this happened to my kid. Why do we have to keep this hush-hush? This is a big ordeal and it's sweeping across the country, okay? This is why we're out here at 8:15, 8:30 on a Wednesday night talking to you folks, okay? Because we care about this enough to be here and talking about this. John cares about this, and Brittany cares about this, right? Because we want you guys to be informed and aware. So get out there and talk about it. Talk about it with your kids. Talk about it with your neighbors. Talk about it with your other family members. Okay? Drop this whole hush hush, don't tell anybody what this happened to me. No, it happened. Let's make it known. Let's end that statement.
All right, we were going to have a short digital presentation, but we're having tech issues, and that's okay, because honestly, almost everything that was in our presentation, John covered. He did a very, very nice job. Again, on the OBC table, there is a handout that has all the slides from the presentation that I was going to do. Again, talk to your kids. Don't send nude photos to anyone ever, whether you know them or not. Follow age-appropriate guidelines. If Facebook says 13, it's okay for your family to say 16, or even 18. Like, you can make your own rules. There are sample tech contracts out there for you to have that conversation, define rules as a family, follow that contract. There's a sample out there for that. And then the only other thing that we're going to do is walk you through a couple things online. Families often want to know, what do I do specifically for Snapchat? What do I do for Instagram? It's changing all the time. We thought we had handouts, and they're already outdated. So rather than having handouts to give you to walk through step by step, Mallory is going to show you a little bit about the IPAC website, basically, right? Or
Well, we'll kind of go through like Snapchat. If you want to talk about parental guidelines or how can you keep your child safe on these applications, honestly, each social media account is owned by a different company. So they're all run a little bit different. Everyone has different privacy settings. The way that you can really figure out is either A, download the app and use it yourself so you know what your child is doing. And secondly, just Google it, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to Google it, click on it. Almost every single one of these applications now has to have something for parents, or parents are like a safety center. A lot of times they call it policy and safety, support, something like that. This one is called Safety Center. So just by clicking on that, they can give you safety policies, things that you should do. There's tons of different options to come in here and figure out where can you set the settings, where, privacy settings, teens on Snapchat, things like that. So they're here. Do these companies make it super obvious on where to find it? Not always, which is the unfortunate part. But all of these companies have this. So Discord, if your child uses Discord, where can you go to? Safety. A lot of these companies now have what's called a family center. So as a family, or as a parent or guardian, you can kind of link to your child's account to see what are they searching the last 7 days, who are they friends with, who are the last people that they've communicated with the last 7 days. A parent hub. It's going to give you all sorts of information as to, how does my teen use Discord? What are channels? What do I need to know about this? Okay, you can have downloaded guides. My suggestion is go into these sites, download the guides that they're providing you. These guys are constantly updating their apps, daily, weekly. It's ever-changing. It's hard for us to keep up, and we do this on a daily basis. As parents, I wouldn't even really know where to start. My kids aren't old enough for that yet. But go into these different sites. They all have it. They're all available, but you have to do the research. And as parents, I would rather, if you can't find it, you don't know where to look, call law enforcement. We're more than happy to help. I'd rather take 30 phone calls of, what does this app do, than take one phone call saying, my child was a victim because I didn't know how to set the privacy settings. So make the phone calls, ask. We're more than happy to help. Again, they have a tab. Roblox has a tab called Parents. Go to it. Check out the safety features, safety tools and policies. All of these different apps have it. It just might be a little bit tricky to find. And again, if you can't find it, just ask. We're more than happy to help. half the time, and I know a lot of times when Josh and I do interviews with either suspects, and they're on all sorts of different apps, half the time we don't even know what app they're talking about. And I have to say, what is that app? What does it do? How does it work? And then I have to do my own research on the back end. There's millions of apps, probably billions, I don't even know. But they change every day. So look them up, Google them. I mean, I know it sounds kind of stupid when you say just Google it, but honestly, that's what you got to do. And all of the privacy stuff is there. Does anybody have an app that they absolutely want me to show you? Well, let's see, long last. Like where the privacy or the support settings are called, or where they're located? Instagram.
Can I ask you a question about a different thing? Like,
Yeah.
can you access stuff from Nintendo Switches? Like those type of games? Because those are online, aren't they? So can you access stuff from those handheld games?
Yes, so anything that's connected to the internet has access to typically chats, your PlayStations, your Xboxes. I don't know a ton about Nintendo Switch. Josh is more of a gamer kind of guy than what I am. But if it accesses the internet, then the answer is usually yes. They're typically chatting. Any of these games that you're using on PlayStation and Xbox come with the chat features. A lot of times people use Discord, and Discord is advertised as like the gaming chatting, and you can figure out all these different things about Discord and talk about specific games. But that's where a lot of people kind of stray into different types of things as well, where then you're exchanging pictures and videos and personal information and things like that. Any other questions? I know it's been a lot of information.
I have a question for mandatory reporters. As a therapist, you have somebody reporting, like, we have to report it, how would we help the child?
Yeah, so, what was that?
Do that card that you get,
Mm-hmm.
you have up front?
Yes, so we have a bunch of the little pocket cards, and it has a QR code on it to report online. And I'll kind of just go to, if, sometimes people don't want to report to law enforcement or to, they get nervous to report to somebody. So you can report online. It's called a Siren tip line report. Anything involving a child can be reported right here. Whether you're the reporting party or you're not, it gives you a ton of information. It gives you victim information. And again, it's right on here. For feelings of suicide, for domestic violence, for child abuse. If you're a victim, we want people to have these resources. Knowing that you're not alone. Again, you can make the report for yourself, for someone that you know, or just something that you heard. These cyber tip lines go through a national, in Virginia, NACMEC goes through all of these cyber tip line reports, and then they distribute them out to what's called affiliate agencies. So if you say this happened I live in Wisconsin, this happened in Wisconsin, it's going to come to the Department of Justice. We're going to look at what region it comes from. If we say, oh, this happened in Burnett County, we pass it along to the Burnett County Sheriff's Office. Or if Amory happens to be an affiliate, we pass it along to the agency that we know can make contact either with the victim, or if it happens to be a suspect that gets reported in our area, that's how it's reported through them. So super easy to report online, but also just call local law enforcement. Yes?
So I think one thing that's probably your wheelhouse too is with the apps that have like actual GPS location. And then, so like with your department, how big of an issue is that in our, or your area? Or maybe children getting picked up because their GPS is on?
I've worked one sextortion case where an individual, this was down in the La Crosse area, he specifically targeted female children in his area. His was not financial sextortion, his was for additional nude photos. And he would oftentimes, any of the accounts that were GPS, you can see who's in your surrounding area. If you have a public account, And his payment method was either, it was vapes, cigarettes, which are actually that big of a thing right now, and alcohol. So he would pay these underage females to continue sending nudes, and because he was in the area, he could drop them off and do it easily because he knew they live in Alaska. He knew they live in La Crosse. So it happens. Again, that's why it's important to not have public profiles, not have the GPS on. I get it's convenient for parents, but there's other applications that probably make a little bit more sense for the tracking part. Yes?
Does the Department of Justice track by like county or case, like if you were talking to a group of students, would there be a way of saying this has happened, this many cases that we know of in Burnett County?
We are able to pull numbers and it would have to be, so we have analysts. So our analysts typically deal with more of the numbers, and they're the ones that kind of dish out the cases that come into us. So anytime we get a neck cyber tip report, they kind of, what's the word, go through it and then they ship it out to the affiliate agencies. So they would be able to pull those numbers and show how many Burnett counties had, how many Eau Claire counties had, and that type of thing. So they would be able to pull a little bit more specific numbers.
Yeah.
But it does happen in Burnett County.
Anything else?
I didn't doubt that, I just,
No,
I know how kids are.
I wanted to
Cities
clarify that,
or-
yes, we know
yeah.
that it does happen in Burnett County.
Yes.
Yeah, every county in the state of Wisconsin is an affiliate. You know, Josh and I, we work different types of cases depending on the kind of the length of these. You know, typically when county agencies take cases, they're doing a million other jobs, where Josh and I are specifically only working internet crimes against children. He's probably working property crimes, you know, sexual assault, all sorts of different things. So sometimes it's not always easy for agencies to do the full investigation when you have an individual who's sextorting people, you know, across the country. So that's where sometimes we'll step in and help out with those when they kind of get too big.
So if you didn't stop at the resource tables, do so. Use the QR code in the program. If you did pick up a program, they're right outside the door. I will be updating the handouts and information in that folder as I learn more, as they share more resources with me and things. So that really is probably your best bet. But again, talk as a family, often, regularly. That's your number one way to keep it from happening to your kids. You want your kids to be comfortable enough to come to you and say, I think I just messed up. You want to prevent it first, but if it happens, you want them to come talk to you and then call law enforcement, and they will help you out.
Are the students in Burnett County hearing what we're hearing now? Or no?
We hope so, yes. They were all invited tonight.
No, I mean, like, as a school assembly type thing, is there anything happening with our kids for that?
We hope so, yes.
Okay.
That is part of why we're recording it tonight.
Okay.
So, I can't guarantee that every district's going to use it, but it will be available.
Okay.
Otherwise, thank you for coming. We do appreciate you being here. Reach out anytime. Again, pick up resources. And last call for any other questions. All right.
I just want to say thank you to everybody who works on this. Like, this is one of my big fears, and I really appreciate all the time that went into doing this presentation, because as a parent who's scared to death of this, like, it's comforting to know that there's people that this is their passion and they are going to help. And for the people who have shared their stories, thank you. Because I can't imagine what that would be.